Welcome back to Sunrise Daily, and that's where we're keeping our focus this time. The Presidential Election Tribunal and matters arising from that. And joining us to have a broad discussion about that is Mr. Sowunmi. He's the Ethical Worker spokesperson, as well as GT Ogunye. He's a legal practitioner. Thank you both, gentlemen, for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Let me begin with you, Mr. Ogunye, because this matter has come to a point where questions must be asked. For instance, the PDP saying that Zainab Bolkichowa's appointment as the Supreme Court Justice in the Presidential Election Tribunal case is unacceptable. That's what the PDP is saying. Saying because her husband is a member of the APC. Does that in any way come across to you as a reason that may influence the outcomes of the presidential, the tribunal sitting to look at the presidential election results?
Well, let me say generally that in the adjudicatory process and in justice administration process generally, the judex is expected to be impartial. And I think that foundationally, Section 36 of the Constitution speaks to this. It provides that in the determination of his civil rights and obligation, a person is going through the adjudicatory process shall be entitled to a fair hearing by a court of law or tribunal that is established by law to guarantee its impartiality and independence. Emphasis here, impartiality and independence. And I know that when parties before a court have good reasons, cogent and verifiable reasons, to doubt this impartiality or independence, they can raise it. The critical question remains, how is it raised?
Let's raise it with
my view.
Let's raise it with him here, because he's here with us.
Let me anchor.
So that he can answer.
No, let me just
to
answer
that.
quickly. Let me just answer quickly. The critical question is, how is it raised? My view is that it has to be raised very soberly, professionally and decently before that tribunal or court, seeking on those grounds a recusal of the judex or one of the justices that may be presiding over a matter if you have a panel of judges. In my view, I don't think that what has played out in the media is good for the judiciary. I think that first, it has to be raised before that tribunal, and later the media can then feed on it as news report, not a complaint that has to be discussed ahead of it being raised before the tribunal, because it has implications for a fair determination of any process before the court. And it verges.
No, hold on. Hold on. If I may come in, you say that it should be raised with a level of subtleness. As a matter of fact, the precise word that you use is that it should be raised with some, how do you put it again?
Sobriety?
With soberness to it. Mr. Sowunmi, is your party, the PDP, raising these issues in a sober manner, such that it will be acceptable and perhaps the people will reason with you that, yes, Bolkichowa should not be the chairman of the Presidential Petition Tribunal?
Yes. What the party did was to write a letter detailing why they thought it was a bit of a concern, and then they've laid it before. I'm sure it's been filed. But beyond that, I'll need to set some foundational backgrounds to this issue. There are about 5 organs that every society that wants to make progress must pay attention to: the executive, the legislature, the judiciary, those that manage the media, and the ecclesiastical movement, people who, preachers, popes, all of those ones. Once you are able to keep a balance of how well those 5 organs are going, more than likely society will make well. But of them all, the most critical is the judiciary. Why? Because ultimately, when issues come up in society, they're the ones that are supposed to be so impartial to the extent that whatever they legislate, whatever they pronounce, everybody can be calm with it because self-help never works. The rule books of the courts in Nigeria, the NJC, they have a code, and I'll read a couple of sections for it. The first is that Rule 1 says, this rule shall be cited as code of conduct for judicial officers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and shall come into force on the 24th day of February in 2016. And then the three of the comments there are critical for this conversation. The first is Rule 210. It says a judge shall not participate in a case to determine in a case in which any member of the judge family, representative, a litigant, or associate is a member. Rule 8. The duty of a judge and his family and social and political partner. Rule 8.1. A judge shall not allow a judge's family, social, or other political relation improper to influence the judge's judicial conduct. 8.2. The judge's family, friends, social, civic, professional colleague, whom he or she associates regularly with communicates on matters of mutual concerns, shall trust or confidence or a position that. And then the icing on the cake is the 1963 case that Lord Downing did say. And what happened there? A man had gone to court or to the panel then to talk about the rents. And it turned out that one of the persons who was going to make a decision on that rent had a reason to be making a decision on a rent within an area where his father was. And Lord Downing, I want to quote a part of it that is important. What is important there is that he determined what ought to be the thing that guides the judiciary, especially a judge, when he wants to show interest in a case. It says, the court looks at the impression which will be given to other parties, even if he was as impartial as he could ever be, regardless if right-minded persons would think that. In that circumstance, is there a real likelihood of a bias? In this particular case, with profound respect to Justice, Honorable Justice Zainab Bakachua, how do you truly expect us, or even society, to view that what she ought to do by herself without being prompted, which is to recuse herself, is not being done? And must the victim now become the hunted when the matters have come before us? And these matters obviously must be important enough for people to discuss. And with the greatest respect to the learned gentleman, the PDP has not done anything other than write a formal letter to that effect. That public conversations will now take on a life of its own does not necessarily translate to the totality of the opinion and the position of the PDP, because we are responsible enough to know that a matter that is before a court should be considered sub judice and people should not delve into it. But with the greatest respect, if you do not do what you are meant to do, the entire society cannot be cowed. And in any case, law is just a profession, just as much as journalism is. And each part of that profession, as the law protects themselves, so journalists also protect themselves. Our duty is to ensure that society is served by interrogating the issues, by bringing up the issues, by discussing the issues. You know why? Because ultimately, if we're not careful, nations can be legislated or adjudicated into a dictatorship,
okay,
and no one must allow that.
Let's go on a short break. We'll be back after this message. Join us again. Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. At the start of the show, we did remind you of bring an announcement rather to you, and that's it, just on your screen there. Victoria.
She's 17 years old, 6 feet tall, and left home in Oniru, headed for her school, Holy Child College, Ikoyi. Normally would have taken a bus going to Obalende from Sandfield bus stop, but somehow she disappeared about a week ago while on her way to school and has not been found. If you have any information whatsoever, please contact the nearest police station as soon as you can. Thank you very much.
Okay, back to the show now. GT, you did hear him make, as a matter of fact, quoted some sections of the rule book, the NJC rule book. Are you aware of that portion that he has talked about, that you may not have a relative if you must preside over a case?
Well, let's not rush through these things as if, You know me. I'm familiar with the rule book. I'm familiar with the provisions. But there is nothing that has been read in the provision this morning, even by him, that touches on the specificity of the matter that we're discussing. The rule, just hold on. The rule book says that no family member. Is it being alleged that the family member of the President of the Court of Appeal, who is the presiding justice in this matter, appearing in this matter, is any member of our family a party to the matter? And so we need to be very, very, circumspect in discussing some of these things. I have said that you should have reasons to doubt the impartiality of the judex. As a party, you have every right to raise it. I have been in a court, and in this case, a court of appeal. Justice Oguntade, then the presiding justice of the Lagos Division of the Court of Appeal, was presiding over a matter. And incidentally, his son, a lawyer, George M. Oguntade, now a senior advocate of Nigeria, was counsel to one of the parties. And he, suo motu, on his own, raised that and asked the other lawyer and the parties, do you want me to recuse myself from this matter? And the response was, which was very thunderous, was that, no, my lord, we have absolute confidence in your lordship's impartiality. I am saying that I am familiar with all those, but as a party that has submitted a matter to adjudication, if you have any doubt as to the impartiality of the judex, you go there, you raise it, and I use my words carefully. Cogent and verifiable reasons. Look, there are many judges whose husbands or spouses are in the political circle. I don't need to mention their name. We have the wife of governors on the bench. Adamawa, Rivers, and so on and so forth. Even at the apex level. It can't then be that just because of any tangential supposition that they are connected, their spouses are connected to the matter before the court, then that's the reason for them to recuse themselves and all that. I'm saying that the provisions of the code talked about family members.
The NJC code.
Yes. That so if a husband is a party before a case, a child, a son, a sister, of course, automatically, you cannot, preside over that matter. And I'm saying that in this case, that is not the situation.
But is the family,
sorry,
family not part of?
How
can you say? Hold on, my.
Yes.
Would you consider a spouse as part of the family?
Yes, a spouse is part of the family, but is the spouse a party to the case? That's the question. That's what the court talks about.
Do you have a clarification?
Sorry. Before we go there, Mr. Ogunye, you said that the complaint should be laid with sobriety.
Yes.
They laid this at the office of the woman. They wrote a letter to her.
Yes.
Isn't
that sobriety?
If you have a good reason to talk about recusal, it's not usually an epistolary thing. You come before that tribunal, you raise it, and you perhaps file an application asking for a recusal. I'm saying this maybe because I'm a lawyer. I've given serious flaks to judges on the bench, regarding some anti-corruption cases, to the discomfiture of colleagues. I'm not bothered about that. But I'm saying that if you have those reasons, you are at liberty to raise it. Because, just as we are saying that we don't want the ordinary man on the street to have the impression that justice has not been done, it is also not correct to let us make the ordinary man on the street have the impression that justice is being sacrificed, when essentially what we do is crying wolf.
Okay.
So that's why you would need to go before that tribunal, raise it, and it is the same argument when the issue of whether the outgoing state president should appear before the Code of Conduct Tribunal should not appear on this platform, in this studio. I said, you are wasting your time. Don't go to any other court to raise it. Go before that tribunal and raise it. And from there, take it up to the highest level of the judiciary.
Mr. Sowunmi.
Yes.
From what he is saying, it's sounding like your party is already accusing the Honorable Justice.
Please, with due respect, nobody has accused anybody of anything. My party has not done that. We have taken the dignified route of a proper letter detailing our reasons to wish that she should recuse herself, and we have gone to great pain to explain why. And the most interesting of it is that we brought matters within the judicial rule book. It's not enough for them. Of course, it can never be. We went a step further to show what the very respected Daniel said on the matter concerning the view of potential buyers. And then we went to a step further to show that it's not all the time that the nexus of the relationship have to be directly involved. It's only what the average man would think or what the litigant would feel comfortable. For instance, how do you explain that in a two-party situation of APC versus PDP, someone whose family members, most of them, are elected members, husband, candidate, son, brother, peers to the president, all of it all exactly in the tent and in the camp of potentially allies of one of the people who will have some advantage from how the case goes. In a matter that is as charged as this, the best we can do is write a letter. And we have done that. That the matters are now generating conversation online and all over the place, that's not from us. That you have invited me here today to come and try and explain what our views are does not mean that we want to be sub-judicial or we're crying wolf or whatever, but tyranny will take over our land if at every run of the ladder, those who should stand right will begin to say, oh, you should wait. What? Wait for what?
Okay.
Wait to be told that the next step is now the Supreme Court, and then wait to be told that after the Supreme Court is now the Court of Heaven.
You know what we're going to do? We have another question for you. And
yes.
That question will come from Abuja. Malpe, go ahead. Go ahead, Malpe. Okay, we'll establish that contact with Abuja as quickly as we can. But
there's a very offending comment that has been trending from the camp of the APC and their friends, which is that there are lots of lawyers, a lot of judges on the bench and blah, 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 who are also related to people that probably are in PDP. Judges can marry whoever they choose, including politically exposed people. It is their right. There is nothing wrong with that.
But he's not a
What is wrong with that is that they ought to know when they should recuse themselves because it doesn't look fair. And remember when I was quoting Lord Dunning, I said the case had to do with some guy coming to ask for a litigation on rent. And then the judge ruled and gave a rent that was so low. It was proved later that, or assumed, that the judge might have done that, or whoever did it, because his father lived within the neighborhood where the rent will be greatly impacted. Okay. And the Nala judge said that the intention of buyers must be such that will get you out. Okay. And in any case...
Let's take the question now.
Now
let's take the question. Malpe, please go ahead.
Well, thank you, Gimba. I have questions for both guests. First to Mr. Ogunye. I would like to know, I mean, he's mentioned the cases of, judges who are spouses to politically exposed persons. Now, do you think that I mean, do we stand the risk of bias in these matters when the PDP asks for, you know, for Justice Bolkachua to recuse herself? Do you think that it is an example of what could happen in the event that we continue to have politically exposed persons with spouses in the judiciary occupying important positions on the bench?
Yes, thank you, Mark.
Don't we run a risk there that matters like this could come up in future?
No. Yes, Mark, thank you. You're right. But, you know, when judges are appointed, it's never certain or settled that in the future certain cases will come before them. And the fact that those prospects exist will not warrant people being eliminated from the appointment process. Now, the point is that, yes, these risks are banned, but I'm just looking at some considerations here, including not coming across as a misogynist. Women judges, jurists will continue to be married by men who can go into all sorts of places and all that. And we can be counting the number of them that are so married now. You know that usually, since 1999, in election petition, either presidential or gubernatorial, you've had the head of the courts. Justice Abdullahi did that in the Edo Tribunal. Indeed, he was going to places to preside over the election appeal determination. He did that in 2 or 3 of those contentious cases, either on those states, Mimiko, and so on and so forth. Justice Salami, the same thing. So it is usual for the head of a court to do that. And at this time, Justice Bolkachua is the head of that court. We also know that we have a tribunal of 5 members determining this matter, and he is just one of them. Finally, we know that even the administrative task of constituting the tribunal, of composing it, is undertaken by the same justice. So if we begin to stretch it, we may even argue that, oh, you should have recused yourself from even constituting the panel, because there's going to be a real likelihood of bias. I'm saying that in all these, parties have a right. The PDP has a right, certainly, to raise this issue, but raise it before the tribunal and ask for a recusal based on cogent and verifiable reasons. I've stated here, when the provisions of the code are being read, that we're not talking about a case of a family member or a social circle friend, association member, church group member, things like that, you know, appearing as a party before that court. We're not talking about the husband of the judge, for example, is being elected, who is a senator-elect. I have not confirmed that. Appearing before that tribunal. So we're not talking about the senatorial petition, appeal petition of that husband being adjudicated before a panel of the Court of Appeal, and then Justice Bolkachua presiding over that matter. So there's a distinction, therefore, you know, when we trash out all these things. And that's why I've called for circumspection.
Yeah, with profound respect, thank you. Do you know why in other crimes, like in America, why they sequester jurists?
Mr. Sowunmi, if I may, I don't know if you want to quickly respond to what he has to say, or what he has said, but let me quickly raise this with you. He has said raise this before the tribunal. Do you think that from the conversations that we've had so far, we risk politicizing the conversations around the judiciary, especially if you look at the fact that Justice Bolkachua was appointed in 2014 by the president of your from your political party, and so far so good. There's been no accusation of bias against her in any matter that she sat on. Do you think that we could be risking, because people will interpret this differently, we could be risking not just politicizing this particular matter of the election petitions tribunal, but the judiciary as a whole, especially when you also take into consideration what has just happened with the ex-Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Ogunye?
Thank you. You see, the entire nation, Nigeria, is like a baby that PDP loves to nurture. And that's why you see that we're always very, very careful not to stretch things ridiculously. For instance, we're not saying that the learned judge, very respected Zainab Bolkachua, should not constitute the panel. That would have been ridiculous because it's our duty to. What we are asking is, Madam Judge, do you think on your own you shouldn't, given the nature of how interesting and intricate this case is, recuse yourself? And I think we have done that in the most professional manner. In terms of judges getting married, surely they will. But that's why you have these codes. Do you know why the jury is always sequestered in America, even when they're just civilians or members of society who are made to make pronouncements on cases? It is because they must go to great length to make sure that nobody can even remotely suggest interference. Now, when Justice Bolkachua gets home at night, and her husband, who is a PDP, an APC senator, and her sons and her family member come to greet her and say good morning, are we going to put a tape on her mouth, cover her ears, plug her, so that she will not discuss, the matters will not be discussed? And if it not be discussed, who will tell us it's not being discussed? We are only saying, for the good of all of us, for what goes round usually comes round. And society must constantly deepen its own process and improve itself. And the matter is made more ridiculous by the treatment of our members. Take the case of Bukola Saraki now. Having gone all the way to the Court of Appeal, go to Supreme Court on the matter. Today now he's been hounded by another double jeopardy from EFCC for no just reason other than being a member of our party. Take the case of Ogunye. We held the view that let the NJC use its self-correcting mechanism to take care of that matter. Of course, that's all, it's in public domain now. Should society, especially the main opposition, now sleep when members of the legal profession, civil society, and all of the other organs who are constantly supposed to call the society for what it is, go to sleep? We should sleep so that when we wake up tomorrow morning, one day in this country, we find ourselves in a country that resembles that of Adolf Hitler.
Pure sentiment.
Well, it is, but they are real sentiments because there is evidence of how things like this, extreme vigilance, is the hallmark that everybody must hold on to in a democracy. We have asked her to be recused. We do not want to go into too much of the details. We've put it before them, and obviously she has to take the decision. You know what? Our case is difficult. She's still the one that has to take that decision by herself. But we will just say what is right is right.
We'll conclude on this when we return after these messages. Join us again. Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Mr. G.T. Ogunye, you just heard Mr. Sowunmi make those statements, his pronouncement where, even though it is sentimental, what they're asking for, but the fairness element of it must also play in a case such as this one. In your final views, how would you respond to that?
You know, there's a statement made by an SY jurist at the APS level, and he says that justice is rooted in confidence, and confidence is destroyed when the ordinary man on the street walks away with the impression that justice has not been done. If and when this issue is properly and appropriately raised in the judicial forum, I will expect the panel that will have to take a decision in general, and Justice Bolkachua in particular, to look at the matter as dispassionately as possible and then come to a conclusion.
You mean as dispassionately as possible by way of she remains at the chair
When
of the petition or not?
Look, I'm a procedural person. Law is about procedure. If you raise it before that panel, it doesn't become her decision alone. He's one. There are 4 others who are not Justice Bukashowa. So they will look at it. That's why I'm saying that it is best to deal with it that way. Okay? And so I would want to be confident that the tribunal will look at it as dispassionately as possible and then come to a just decision.
Okay, because we have to go very quickly.
In the circumstances.
Let me get your own final views on this.
Well, I do not envy her. The greatest respect for her. I have a lot of admiration for her as an individual. If the tribunal were to go ahead and pronounce us victorious, the society will say she cowed to pressure and she was blackmailed into it. If the tribunal were to go ahead and say, oh, PDP, you didn't prosecute your case and you didn't win, then the society will say, oh, didn't we tell you? There is no middle ground and easy way for her here. And I, with profound respect to her, I would just expect that she elevates the entire process beyond what it has become and then writes what I believe she's able to pen as a reason to recuse herself. That's the most decent thing to do. Historical errors of judiciary and pronouncement of very, very strong judges in the past have suggested that it is not enough for justice to be done. Justice must be seen to be done. In the case of the kinds of country that African nations, Nigeria inclusive, is, elections and the emotions that go into it is too serious a matter to allow the practitioners to lose faith in the judiciary. For if they so do, then you know they're going to end up being with self-help. And to prevent us from such kind of catastrophe in the future, the earlier we start to do the things that we need to do today. For nations must constantly improve themselves.
That's a good place to let it rest. I must thank both of you for talking to us on Sunrise Daily on this very heated topic.
Except that we're not feeling the heat.
We're friends and brothers.
Sowunmi, the Atiku Abubakar spokesman, as well as GT Ogunye, legal practitioner and a friend of the house also. Thank you so much indeed for talking to us.
Yes, my pleasure.
Just before we go, we did earlier bring to you this information. That's it on over your screen there. Victoria, she's 17 years old. She disappeared about a week ago while on her way to school in Ikoyi, Lagos, and has yet to return home up till this time. She's about 6 feet tall. She left Oniru, where she lives, and headed for her school, Holy Child College in Ikoyi. She would normally take the Obalende bus from the Sandfield bus stop. Anyone with any useful information about Victoria should have that information over to the police as quickly as possible. We do appreciate you for being so nationalistic and trying to help out to find out where Victoria is. And that's the show this morning. I want to thank you so much indeed for watching. I am Gimba Umar.
Am I your Makinde?
Thank you. I'm Maokbe Ogunye. Have a lovely day.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this program are those of the maker and do not reflect the views, opinions, and endorsement of Channels Television.